I should have known something was off when she said it with a straight face. It's not cheating if he's not serious. That line played on repeat in my head for weeks. Not because I agreed with it, but because she said it like it was law. Like morality had gray areas she was free to walk through while the rest of us stood outside, watching her paint her own rules. We weren't together. That's important to say. We hadn't been for almost a year. But I never really left. Not emotionally. Not practically. I still showed up when she needed a ride to the airport, when her rent spiked, when her car broke down, and she cried on the sidewalk like the world had personally betrayed her. I was her fallback. And I accepted it because part of me hoped she'd eventually fall all the way back to me. She had a new guy. His name was Alex. Tall, jawline that looked carved. You know the type. She told me he was just for fun. That it wasn't deep. That she liked the way he made her feel. But he's not built for real life, she said once, shrugging. You are. That's how she kept me tethered. Compliments dipped in dependency. Just enough warmth to keep me near. Never enough to make it real again. Then came the text. A Thursday night. Hey. Can you help me move this weekend? That was it. No context. No please. No explanation. So I asked, move what? Out of Alex's. He ended things. It's complicated. I'll explain when you get here. I said yes. Of course I did. Because that's who I'd become in her story, the guy who shows up when the one she really wants leaves. I pulled into his apartment complex on Saturday. She was standing outside with 2 boxes and her eyes hidden behind oversized sunglasses. She didn't say hi. Just popped the trunk and started loading. Was it bad? I asked. She snorted. He said he couldn't handle the emotional labor. Meaning? Meaning he didn't like when I asked him to actually show up. I didn't say what I was thinking, that maybe she didn't know the difference between showing up and being used. We loaded the car. Drove in silence. Halfway to her new place, she said, I know what you're thinking. I didn't answer. You think I bring this on myself? I tightened my grip on the wheel. I think you confuse attention for affection. She flinched. Wow. Okay. We didn't talk for the rest of the drive. Her new apartment was smaller. 3rd floor walk-up. No elevator. I carried most of the boxes. She directed traffic. After we finished, she offered a drink. I declined. She opened a beer anyway. You know, she said, slouched on the floor. He never asked me about my day. I sat on the edge of the couch we just assembled. But he made you feel wanted. For a while, yeah? And that was enough? She didn't answer. Just stared at the floor. Then, you're still in love with me. I looked at her. Don't weaponize that. She blinked. That's not what I. Yes, it is. She leaned back, blew out a breath. I don't know how to need people in healthy ways. I know. But you let me. That landed harder than I expected. The next morning, I woke up to a text from her. I meant what I said last night. I just didn't know how to say it without ruining us again. That was the first time she acknowledged we were something, whatever fragile, one-sided thing that was. And somehow, it made everything worse. Because once you admit the imbalance, you either fix it or walk away. And she wasn't fixing it. I stopped replying after that. Not immediately. But gradually. Shorter texts. Missed calls. Declined invites. I started to say no. She noticed. Why are you pulling away? She asked one day. Because I finally believe you when you say you don't know how to love me right. She cried. Said I was abandoning her. Said I was no better than Alex. But I wasn't walking away out of cruelty. I was walking away because staying had started to feel like self-harm. The last time I saw her was at a friend's party months later. She was laughing with someone new. Someone taller. Louder. I nodded when she glanced my way. She didn't come over. Didn't ask for help. Didn't need me anymore. And for the first time, I felt something close to peace. Not because she was gone, but because I finally was. It's been a year since I last heard her voice. Not a text. Not a DM. Nothing. Complete radio silence. And you'd think that would sting. That it would feel like being cut out. Like closure with a scalpel. But the truth is, it felt like breath returning to a body that had forgotten how to breathe. I'd started therapy 3 months after walking away. Not to get over her. I think I'd already done that, in pieces, during every moment she used my affection like a favor owed. I started therapy to understand why I stayed so long. Why I let someone else's needs bulldoze my own. My therapist asked me, "What did you get from being her backup?" I said, "Hope." She said, "That wasn't hope. That was delusion built on crumbs." That line stuck with me. I started seeing someone new 6 months ago. Her name's Claire. She's different in every way. She doesn't make me feel needed. She makes me feel chosen. The first time I told Claire about her, she didn't flinch or try to fix me. She just asked, "Do you think she ever really saw you?" And I said, "No." She only saw what I could hold up for her. I ran into her at a bookstore last week. She looked almost the same. Maybe a little older. A little more tired. She smiled. Small. Careful. "You look good," she said. "You too." We talked for a few minutes. Nothing deep. Surface level updates. She asked what I'd been up to. I told her I was dating someone. Her smile faltered, just for a second. Then she said, "I've been thinking about calling you." "Why?" "I don't know. Maybe to say thank you? Or sorry? Or both?" I nodded. "I think we both know you already said everything you needed to say. Just not with words." She didn't argue. We said goodbye. And I walked out of the store without looking back. Because sometimes the most powerful closure isn't a conversation. It's the silence you choose to leave untouched. And the door you finally know better than to open again. There's something strange about healing. It doesn't always look like strength. Sometimes it looks like boredom. Like waking up and not thinking about them first thing. Like drinking your coffee without replaying arguments in your head. Like peace that feels so quiet it makes you wonder if you're doing something wrong. But I wasn't. I was finally doing something right. For myself. Claire and I moved in together 2 months ago. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a big Instagram announcement. It was simple. Mutual. No one begged. No one clung. We both chose it, like two adults who'd been bruised before but still had enough faith to try again. She has a way of seeing things in me that I never thought were worth noticing. Not just the big gestures. The small stuff. The way I line up the coffee mugs. The way I always wipe down the counters before leaving the kitchen. She notices. And somehow, that makes me feel like I matter. With her, I'm not performing loyalty hoping it'll be exchanged for love. I'm not proving my value in acts of service and hoping to earn a place. I just exist, and that's enough. Then, out of nowhere, I got the call. It was her sister. I hadn't saved the number, but I knew the voice immediately. Flat. Shaky. "She's in the hospital," she said. "An accident. I don't know who else to call." My stomach dropped. Claire was sitting across from me at the dinner table when I hung up. She didn't say, "Don't go." She didn't ask questions right away. She just said, "I get it. But remember who you are now." That was all I needed. I walked into that hospital with my heart somewhere between my ribs and my throat. She was in recovery. Nothing life-threatening, but serious enough. Broken wrist. Concussion. Bruised ribs. I stood outside the room for a full minute before going in. She looked smaller. Pale. The sharpness in her expression was dulled by exhaustion. When she saw me, her eyes welled. "You came. Your sister called." She nodded slowly. "Still. Thank you." I sat beside her. It was quiet. The kind of quiet I used to fill with explanations and apologies. But this time, I let it breathe. I didn't know who else to list as my emergency contact, she whispered. I almost put Alex. But I don't even know where he is now. I stayed silent. I wasn't trying to pull you back in, she added. I know. I've been thinking about everything. Me too. She looked away. I didn't know how to hold on to good things without breaking them. That's not your whole story, I said. But yeah, that was part of it. I think I kept looking for love that hurt, because I thought pain was proof it was real. I nodded. I used to think showing up meant staying, no matter what it cost me. We were quiet again. Then she said, Claire sounds nice. She is. You love her? Yes. She smiled, but her eyes stayed sad. I'm glad. Truly. And I believed her. I left the hospital without fanfare. No long embrace. No contact exchange. Just a quiet, mutual understanding that we were something in each other's stories, but not the ending. Claire was on the balcony when I got home. She didn't ask what was said. She just reached out, pulled me into her arms, and let me stand there until my breathing evened. Weeks passed. The seasons shifted. One morning, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a note, handwritten. No apology. No plea. Just closure. You were right. I was writing love stories in my head and calling them reality. Thank you for not letting me drag you under with me. I hope you never doubt how much you deserve better. I folded the note. Placed it in the back of my desk drawer. Not to keep the past alive, but to remind myself what survival looked like. And to remember that sometimes, loving someone doesn't mean standing by their side. Sometimes it means letting go long enough for both of you to finally see who you are without the weight. And finally, I saw myself clearly. Whole. Loved. Free. There's a point you reach in healing where the pain stops being loud. It doesn't vanish, it just becomes a shadow that moves differently in the light. I stopped waking up braced for disaster. I stopped rehearsing conversations I'd never have. I stopped bleeding for someone who'd already moved on. Claire and I didn't build our life on what I'd been through. She didn't make me retell every broken chapter. She didn't need to. What mattered was how I showed up now, and I did. Fully. Present. Accountable. Not out of fear she'd leave, but because I finally believed I was capable of being chosen without having to earn it through suffering. The night I asked Claire to marry me, it wasn't a production. We were barefoot in the kitchen, eating Thai food from plastic containers. I had no ring. Just a deep knowing that I didn't want to go another day without making it permanent. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just nodded slowly, with that calm she carries in her chest like a compass. Yes, she said. Let's do the rest of it together. We got married under a tree in her parents' backyard. 20 people. No show. Just vows and a breeze and a long table full of people who'd seen us survive to get there. I didn't invite anyone from my past. Not because I held a grudge. Because I had nothing left to prove. Months later, I got a message. Not from her. From someone I barely remembered, mutual acquaintance, once removed. A friend of a friend type. The message was short. She moved. No one knows where exactly. Just packed up and left. Thought you'd want to know. I stared at it for a long time. And then I deleted it. That's the thing about healing. It teaches you that knowing everything isn't always necessary. That some stories deserve to stay closed. That silence is sometimes the kindest boundary. Claire and I started talking about kids. Not urgently. Just in the way two people do when they believe they'd build something safe and honest. I told her I was afraid. Of what? She asked. Of being too much. Or not enough. Or both. She kissed my forehead. You're exactly enough. You always were. One day, I opened that old drawer. The one with the folded note. I read it again. Just once. Then I lit a match. Watch the edges curl. Watch the words that once held me captive dissolve into smoke. Not out of anger, but because some things don't belong in drawers anymore. Not when you're building something new. Not when the past is done asking for air. Now I teach someone how to love me by showing them how I love myself. Now I show up because I want to, not because I'm terrified of being replaced. Now I know what it means to stay, not in someone else's story, but in my own. And for the first time in a very long time. That's more than enough.